Sapphire and Steel is an enigmatic British television series that defies genre conventions with its blend of supernatural horror, science fiction, and fantasy. This iconic show captivated audiences from 1979 to 1982 and has an opening sequence that is off the charts.
All irregularities will be handled by the forces controlling each dimension. Transuranic heavy elements may not be used where there is life. Medium atomic weights are available. Gold, lead, copper, jet, diamond, radium, sapphire, silver, and steel. Sapphire and Steel have been assigned.
I caught Sapphire and Steel sometime, I think back in the 80s, and it was probably on PBS, and I didn't catch all the series, but it was so weird and strange that I was obsessed. So I want to go back and revisit this series that time forgot because I am Daisy Ex Machina, the drag queen detective who investigates all things speculative in science fiction, fantasy, and horror. Sapphire and Steel follows the adventures of two secret agent spies or detectives who are not human, but are interdimensional operatives who investigate disturbances in the space-time continuum. And you're never quite sure exactly who they are, but they are part of this mysterious group of guardians of time, and they use code names like Sapphire and Steel. And it has something to do with the elements or atomic weights. And transuranic heavy elements may not be used where there is life. What does that even mean? All we know about them is that Steel says he doesn't like the heavy elements because they're unstable. Sapphire is played by Joanna Lumley, and Steel is played by David McCallum. And it was kind of amazing they got these two actors for this relatively low-budget show because they were relatively big names for the time. And they had just played secret agent roles before. David McCallum became pretty famous for his role in Man from U.N.C.L.E., and Joanna Lumley, who we would all fall in love with as Patsy in Absolutely Fabulous. But back then, she was known as starring in the Avengers reboot. Not that Avengers. These Avengers. McCallum played Steel just as the name implied. Really hard and cold, kind of an asshole. He's hyper-focused on getting the job done and does not suffer fools. Sapphire was the people person, and she was more empathetic, but somehow both of them were always really aloof and detached. Obviously, they were not human.
Old names, an old house, lots of old things. Lots of old echoes.
A pressure point, then?
Could well be. Could well be it.
You know so much about us.
We do, yes.
Then perhaps you'd like to say who you are, what your names are.
My name is Sapphire, and my friend's name is Steel.
Sapphire?
Yes.
That's what? Well, that's a beautiful name.
Thank you.
They did have superpowers, like Steel had super strength and seemed invulnerable, and he could lower his temperature to absolute zero in order to destroy reflections in time, aka ghosts. Sapphire seems, in my opinion, more powerful in that she can manipulate time, at least for very short periods, and she can also tap into some sort of universal databank. And from the intro that you saw, there were other elements or time agents mentioned, and we do get cameos from two of them. Lead, portrayed by Val Pringle, appears as a jovial giant, while Silver played by David Collings, is a technician with the power to manipulate metals or build or deconstruct seemingly almost anything. Now, Sapphire and Steel is not for everyone. It is very dry. If you think the old Doctor Who episodes are dry, then Sapphire and Steel is like the Sahara. And it is very slow-paced. It is very cerebral. It is extremely dialogue-heavy. And that type of show just isn't for everyone. And if we throw in the special effects, there really is very little in the special effects department. I mean, one of the main crew members in the credits was a videotape editor. Videotape editor. And apparently one of the special effects was David McCullum hanging a piece of cardboard on drapes.
My only real creative process was in the one in the railway station.
The platform again. Something changing, something happening.
And the platform was there, and it was black at either end. And I asked Sean if I could do something, and I went away and got a very large piece of white cardboard, 3 by 3, and cut the top round, and took 2 safety pins and went down to the black drapes and hung the white card on the black drapes. So now when you look down the platform, you could see a tunnel, and at the end of the tunnel, you could see the light. And it was the most extraordinary perspective it gave. You can see it when it's there. I mean, there is a tunnel, and there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And it's just a piece of cardboard.
And Joanna Lumley recounting one of the special effects for Sapphire sounds like absolute torture.
It was fairly primitive, but the very worst thing I had to do was when they decided that the blackness, the darkness, evil had taken over the inside of Sapphire's head. And they made me some eye covers. I can't call them contact lenses because they were as thick as plastic egg boxes. And they painted them black and stuck them into my eyes. And of course my eyes just streamed. So they sent for a doctor who gave me an anesthetic jab in my eyes. And then they stuck these bits of plastic in. It'll meet us where we were.
Sapphire and Steel lasted for 4 seasons, from 79 to 82, but it can be more easily broken up into 6 storylines or missions or 6 transmissions, whatever. Let's call them missions because that kind of sounds cool. But each mission is made up of 4 to 8 half-hour episodes. And I believe this was originally aimed to be a children's show like Doctor Who, though the original time slot was changed to an adult time slot, so it was kind of between worlds. But anyway, let's go over the missions. Mission 1 is about 2 kids whose parents disappear when they read a nursery rhyme out loud.
Ring a roses, a pocket full of posies, a tissue, we all fall down.
Apparently, some evil time force is using the nursery rhyme to punch a hole through the fabric of space and time. And of course, Sapphire and Steel are sent to make things right. And here is when we get an introduction to another operative, Lead, and the trio fight ghosts or reflections of time to bring reality and the children's parents back to normal. If you find nursery rhymes spooky, you'll love this mission, and the total running time here is 2.5 hours. Mission 2 is probably my least favorite, and it's also the longest at 3.5 hours. We get another ghost story, only this one at a railway station. And the main ghost was recruited by yet another unknown time entity who has leveraged how unfair it was that this ghost died in World War II because he was shot and killed 11 minutes after the armistice had been signed. And it was signed at the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month in 1918. For me, this episode or this storyline just felt a little long and slow moving, more so than the others, but I'm sure other people may love that storyline. Mission 3, however, may be my favorite. In this one, we move away from the ghost stories and into this bizarre science fiction story about researchers from 1,500 years into the future setting up these observation posts or pods that look like apartments in the past, which is our present, and things get really bizarre. And Sapphire and Steel come to investigate. Only they can't get into this invisible and apparently impregnable future pod ship apartment. And they are then joined by another operative, Silver. And the mission gets more and more outrageous. You never know what's going on. It is the most trippy of all the missions, except maybe the last one, but I loved it. The running time here is 2.5 hours. Mission 4 is an hour and a half, and it's kind of middle of the road. Apparently, there's this entity from another dimension, and you never really are quite sure who the enemies are in Sapphire and Steel, but they all have to do with time. And this entity has no face and lives in photographs and can bring sepia-colored children out of old photographs. And it can also trap people in photographs. I think this is an okay episode. Mission 5 is another one that runs 2.5 hours, and I think it's really fun. There's this rich millionaire, and he's throwing a party where the theme is the Roaring '20s. And everything down to the radio broadcasts is authentic for the period, which of course sets up a time paradox that Sapphire and Steel have to solve. It then becomes a murder mystery with everyone in period costumes. It is cheeky and fun, and you can tell everyone is having a jolly good time solving the mystery. Now we come to the last mission, Mission 6. Oh, Mission 6. This is the episode you'll love and hate. You'll love it because it dials the creepy and weird up to an 11. Sapphire and Steel are called to investigate a service station that has customers seemingly from different time periods, and they're reunited with Silver, but they never quite know what's going on. Apparently, some higher authority has sent transient beings to mess with Sapphire and Steel. And the whole storyline is really convoluted, it's trippy, it's enigmatic, but the ending is horrible, absolutely horrible, because obviously it was meant to be a cliffhanger for the next season, but there was no next season. Sapphire and Steel was canceled, or the actors decided not to come back, or whatever, something happened. And the very last episode may have the most crazy, unsatisfying image in all of television history. Have you seen Sapphire and Steel, or do you want to see Sapphire and Steel? Let me know down in the comments. And while you're there, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Until we meet again, may all your anomalies in time be blessed.